who better to provide fresh thinking and analysis on the role of America in the world, particularly in Africa, than the one and only Niko House, our regular political commentator and founder of the MCSC News Network. Niko, I really wanted to talk to you this week because it's a difficult subject, this, for me as a white man to raise. But I saw this House Negro, head of AFRICOM, a black African American, threaten to kill the great leader of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. And it made me so mad, I reached out for Niko House for a point of view on it. Did you see it? And what do you think of it?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, let me say congratulations, George, on all the success that you've been having. It's well-deserved. I mean, from the guests to the topics that you cover, I feel like it's not really that many people giving so much diversity. And I know that Piers Morgan is trying his best to copy you, but, you know, it doesn't quite hit the same when you're not as dedicated to the truth as a presenter as you are. So let me just say congratulations on that. And yeah, absolutely. I saw Lingley's comments about Ibrahim, how he's supposedly using the gold reserves to provide his own private security. And let me just say, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, if it was true, let's be honest, wouldn't it be somewhat justified considering the fact that they continue to make attempts on his life? I mean, they just recently made another failed attempt on his life. That's probably why they're upset and why they're now going out of their way to bring it to the attention of the national public, to try and create this narrative, not unlike what we saw happen with Libya and Gaddafi, because Ibrahim has had that type of impact in West Africa when we're talking about not only uplifting Burkina Faso, but then uniting West African countries like Mali and Niger so that they can combat Western imperialism and the NATO allies that try to oppress them.
Well, that's right. His own bodyguards were offered $5 million to kill him. Now, it's no coincidence that the money involved was dollars. The United States and France are determined to do to Captain Traoré what they did to so many others. In Burkina Faso, to the great Thomas Sankara, in the Congo, to the great Patrice Lumumba, and so many other leaders that they have dispensed with extreme prejudice because their own interests were threatened by an African leader who's actually governing in the interests of his own people and not of the empire.
Yep. I mean, this is a guy in Ibrahim Traoré who wears the same uniform every single day. Not fancy suits, just a casual military uniform. He has no type of luxury. No one in the government is permitted to live any type of luxury. You know what he has done with the gold in Burkina Faso? What he's done is nationalize 2 gold mines that would have otherwise been sold for actually far less than what they're making after he nationalized it. That money is going towards the people. And the reason that no one in the government is allowed to live a life of luxury is because until the people of Burkina Faso can live that type of lifestyle, legally, without corruption, then he believes that no one in Burkina Faso should be allowed to live that type of luxury, especially members of the government. He has created a tomato processing facility that's doing very well for the agriculture there. I mean, just over the last couple of years, he's made so many positive changes, and it's all come from internal nationalized movement. And by the way, has been able to do this while Ukraine and Zelensky, on the other hand, of course, with the help of the United States, have been trying to train terrorists to fight the military of Burkina Faso, because France couldn't do so and were kicked out after they tried to, they threatened Burkina Faso after Ibrahim took over, but it didn't work out, just like it didn't work out in Niger. And even though they've been combating terrorism that has been brought about by the United States and helped and funded by Ukraine, Zelensky actually bragged about training terrorists actually recently. He's still been able to carry out these economic measures to help the people of Burkina Faso, and it's been so inspirational. I think that, honestly, George, has been the scariest part. It's not just the success. If he was merely successful, then he would be a problem, and maybe it would be an isolated problem. They would probably try to take him out quietly, because we know they've done that with actually a lot of African leaders over the last maybe 6 or 7 years. They've taken them out quietly. But they're trying to make an example of Ibrahim, because Ibrahim has been so impactful as an inspiration to the rest of Africa. And they're worried that, especially in the current state of the world, that other African nations are going to realize they don't need the West. And I saw your quote. I saw your quote getting passed around on Instagram, actually. You know, there were different reactions to it. And I said, I know George, and I know exactly what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, believe in your own self-determination and be willing to fight the fight. Do not trade in your values or undersell yourself or your potential for these Western values that are just a facade. They're fugazi. They don't really exist. Africans have so much potential. They're so naturally good at everything. I mean, whether it comes to engineering, medicine, anything in between, they do so much more with much less. That how can you not believe in your own potential? And I was telling people, I'm like, he's telling Africans, don't sell yourself short. And I understand how the message can, you know, be received the wrong way because of you being white. But I was saying it doesn't matter if he's white, he's telling the truth. Because I know other Africans like David Huyeden, who reports from Nigeria, who feel exactly the same way.
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying is that you're being foolish sending your children to study in the United States, not least because there's a very high chance that if they say or think the wrong thing, they'll be picked up on the street and unceremoniously deported. Why send your children to the United States? Build up your own universities. Get leaders that are ready to build up their own educational system. Captain Traoré just abolished all education fees this week. Now it's free for every child in Burkina Faso to go to nursery, primary, secondary, and university. Free of charge.
And they had their uniforms. They had their uniforms and their supplies provided to them.
Exactly. And a school lunch thrown in. None of which we've got, by the way, in Britain, and definitely none of which you've got in the United States. So, you know, that's my message. However, people have decided to take it. We stand, as Malcolm said, for justice, whoever it's for and whoever it's against. And we make no distinction of color or race or creed in that. Let's take it back to the United States, if we can, Niko. I was making the point to Colonel Daniel Davis earlier that the Trump administration seems to be careering between left and right, America first, America last, careering between successful and catastrophic failure, with the ever-present possibility of the balloon going up and making all of our discussions OTOs, because there won't be any world. He's done a good job on Ukraine. He's done a disastrous job on China. And he might be about to do the ultimate disastrous job on Iran. How do you make sense of that kind of volatility?
I'm going to be honest with you, George. It seems like he's not making policy decisions based on what he thinks is best for the United States, but perhaps on behalf of another nation. I don't know, maybe Israel, perhaps. I don't know. It's a wild guess. But I find it funny that you say that, because I was watching another show earlier today, and they were talking about how they have to constantly, they get their production ready to do a show, and then Trump opens his mouth, and they have to throw everything out right before they have to record. Because, for example, just like you said with China, he's been waving his the American flag, talking about we're going to put tariffs on everybody, 145% tariffs on China, et cetera, et cetera. And then, what was it, yesterday or this morning, he came out and said, actually, it's not going to be 145%. We're actually going to come way down on these tariffs. And everything I just said yesterday is no longer relevant today. And that's been basically the summation of the Trump administration. Even when we're looking at the NIH, right? Okay. So the NIH, we thought that we're going to see a huge transformation, especially with the nomination of RFK Jr., except for he decided to put in raging Zionist as a director. And now if you participate in any type of protesting or boycott of Israeli products, they're going to pull your federal grant research funding for medical research. How are those two things even closely related? They're not. And it doesn't make any sense. It is directly in conflict with American interests. Because basically what you're saying is, like, if you protest genocide, we're not gonna let you discover the cure to cancer. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, our friend Anya Parampil said that she was relieved when Kennedy got health because at least he couldn't bring Israel into that. But he has. He's made it a centerpiece.
He thought that, right? We all thought that. Nope. We thought that, but the truth is, Israel. But that also illustrates how scary the times we're living in actually are, because now Israel can even infiltrate the National Institute of Health. George, the United States, every single institution in the United States has been bought off by Israel. How can you claim to be America first when Israel is? If Israel was forcing the United States to make decisions that at least moderately benefited U.S. citizens, then maybe I can understand it. But even what we saw in that signal chat, George, let us know that at the very top, even Trump's officials know that those decisions that we're making don't directly benefit the United States. They're hoping that maybe they'll benefit us on the back end. But in the immediate future, materially, they don't have any benefits. Us attacking the Houthis don't benefit us. Us funding this genocide really doesn't benefit us. Even overthrowing the Syrian government, it might moderately benefit us, but it's not really benefiting us as much as it's benefiting Israel so far. Attacking Iran does not benefit us. Not at this moment, not the way people might think it will. It would probably start a war that we can't win. I've already told people, I've been in the military, I've been in the U.S. military. Anyone with any relative knowledge of like operational knowledge would tell you, we invade countries we know we can beat. There's a reason we had to send Iraq to test Iran. There's a reason we keep letting, we'll let Israel do a pop shot at Iran, but then we'll tell them stop. There's a reason why after we assassinated Mossadegh in Iran told us exactly what they're going to do and then dared Trump to respond. Trump didn't respond. And it's because we cannot beat Iran, but Israel keeps testing them anyway. And it's going to be problematic for the entire world. And if Israel really does do an all-out assault on Iran, it will shake things up to the point where the United States will not be a superpower anymore. And that's going to be the consequences of the United States itself, because it's refusing to stand up to Israel for whatever reason. I mean, we can go from probably from the Epstein files to just Zionism in and of itself. But the reality is, if we don't get Israel in check, it doesn't matter who's running the administration at the time. We're all going to suffer.
You mentioned the Epstein files. When are we going to see them? Didn't that woman that's in charge of that department boast that she was going to publish the list? Where is it?
a lot. Yeah, most of his administration from the Department of Justice said that they were going to release the Epstein files, all of the JFK files unredacted, which we still haven't received all of them. And I don't know why we haven't seen the Epstein files. They said that they were going to comb through them to make sure that there wasn't any legal issues with releasing them. But the only legal issue that there could be is that someone powerful, or a lot of powerful people are going to be on the list. But I don't know if they understand this, but that's why we all want to see the list, because we want to know who hasn't been punished. You can't tell us that both Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were both guilty of trafficking underage children to powerful people and then being like, yeah, but no one else is guilty. That doesn't make any sense. And we know that powerful people are involved, which is probably why they haven't been prosecuted yet. And we know that if they release that list, and there are names on that list that are involved in foreign governments all over the world, then what we expect to see next are prosecutions. And they don't want to pursue those prosecutions, in my opinion.